Greetings, Tezos Nation. Welcome to a special, not-so-live edition of TezTalks Live. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons. Joining me today for his record-breaking third appearance on TezTalks Live is Andrei Taranu, Decentralist Product Manager at dOrg. dOrg, for those who might not know, is the autonomous collective building decentralized infrastructure and applications all across the blockchain world and right here in the Tezos ecosystem. dOrg is the team behind HomeBase, the Tezos-powered app that enables users to create and manage decentralized autonomous organizations, aka DAOs, on the Tezos blockchain. Hi, Andrei. How is the holiday season shaping up in Bucharest? I can't hear you.
Hey, Stu. Couldn't unmute myself for a second. I'm really good. Thanks for having me on. The holiday season is, I don't know, they put up lights, so that's nice. And people seem to be kind of a little bit more busy in the shops. Other than that, life goes on.
Right on. Since this is, as I mentioned, your third appearance here on TezTalks Live, maybe this time you could start off by telling us a bit about how you were first introduced to Tezos, how you decided to get involved in this ecosystem, and what that journey has been like so far.
Sure. Well, I looked at Tezos a long time ago when it came out, and I was a big fan of the delegated proof of stake from the beginning. And so it was Tezos and EOS at the time. They were kind of the bigger chains doing this, and also among the first. But I didn't really get to work in the Tezos space until HomeBase. I did work on EOS for a while with some block producers, kind of optimizing their marketing, like their electoral campaigns. So for me, that was a super stimulating side of it. Just trying to see how privileged nodes, what appeals to the audience from with respect to a privileged node, and how they would elect these validators, which are called bakers on Tezos. So that was I did some projects in 2018 where I developed a competitive analysis looking at the different features of privileged nodes. So starting from their technical infrastructure, like their uptime, their redundancy, um, the friendliness of the geography where they operate, because you wouldn't want the authorities to bust in and shut down the validator or take control of it. The influence of the founders, if they have published research, if they're investing in like dApps, what are they doing with the block rewards and so forth. So that was super fun. And then the thing that I was attracted going into 2019, 2020 was DAOs. Like, I fell in love with the idea of decentralized governance. It occurred to me that it's a solution for lots of the issues that are pressing us. So I worked on multiple frameworks, also with dOrg. I worked on an internal project to organize our activity. And then when the opportunity came to join HomeBase as a product manager, I thought it's a great fit. And it turned out that from the Tezos community and from the Tezos Foundation, like Tezos Commons, the strategic decision making was all left with us, which was so nice. So we got to do kind of what we thought was best, and it's been super fun so far.
Right on. So we've got a few things to get in today, and before we do, for context, I was hoping to get you to give us a brief explanation of a few things for anyone watching who might not be super familiar just yet. The first one is dOrg, or Dorg,
Sure.
as you call it?
Yeah, you call it both of these names are acceptable. So it's a DAO, but it is a professional DAO, which is not quite a common thing, unfortunately. Although I personally think that it's the uh, most it's the use case that should get more attention or most attention from people. Like most DAOs should be professional DAOs. That's the biggest advantage that DAOs provide. So for us, we provide Web3 development services. So we code smart contracts and the apps around that. That's the primary value that we output. And from the perspective of a business partner, it's the same as working with a company, like with a development agency. But internally, we use smart contracts and reputation and all of these decentralized tools to organize our activity. And it is better. I haven't, worked in all of the companies, and I mean that's obvious, but I've been in good workplaces and bad places in companies, and I can tell you that there's an element of DAO that you won't find in any company, no matter the culture of it. The fact that there is one person at the top is not the same as having decentralized governance in a good way. I can't exactly explain it, but like a month into it, you can sense it if you join a DAO.
Okay. HomeBase.
HomeBase is a DAO administration platform. So basically, it is the app that allows you to organize in a decentralized way. So it is running a smart contract. The Homebase is the collective name for both the distributed backend, which is the contract, and the app that you use to access. However, you don't have to use the app. You can go directly to the contract and with your Tezos client call the endpoints if that's your jam. So it consists of these two elements. The contract is primarily intended to just hold resources, tokens, NFTs, and then have polls around what to do with those resources. So you make a proposal to transfer some assets that have been placed there by different means, either donations or the members. They can get reputation in the amount of their contribution to the treasury. There are multiple ways of getting and accounting for the resources there, but the basic thing that is decided is how to spend those resources, and people vote. We have proposals. You have proposals on Homebase, and then based on the ownership of the governance token in each member's wallet, they have a certain weight on their vote on how to whether or not to go through with a transfer. That's kind of a very basic way of explaining it.
That was a good explanation. And finally, the Tezos Ecosystem Dow.
Yeah, this is a DAO on Homebase, like all the other ones, which was started by Tezos Commons, and there are a bunch of like the big organizations in the Tezos space. Each Tezos Foundation is another one. So they all have one token, five of them in total. And the point of this is to have a forum for, and I guess, funding for public goods. So this is meant for projects to apply for funding, and these projects should have a component of community benefit, whether they should provide some value to the community. And then uh, so they submit their candidacy directly uh, to the Tezos ecosystem, and then these token holders decide who gets funded. That's how it works right now.
Very cool. Thanks for that. It's been a big year for Homebase, but before we get into the changes that are afoot in the new year, can you give us a brief overview of what users are able to do with Homebase as it exists in 2023?
Sure. So, like I said, you can use Homebase for this most important, I would say, aspect of decentralized governance, which is to decide how to allocate the resources. And of course, this has been a feature from the very beginning. You cannot have a DAO without this. So you can go on HomeBase, you can create, spin up like a DAO, and you have the options between a contract, which we call on-chain DAO, and an off-chain DAO, which we call light. So if you're new to the whole thing and maybe would like to go through the motions, or not even that, because you can use GhostNet to just go through the motions without having an actual stake on chain. But if you just want um, an on ramp for your community, which is not necessarily Web3 native, like they aren't really familiar with wallets and tokens and all of that, you can just spin up a light, and it's the equivalent of snapshot.org on Ethereum, where you just are awarded a certain amount of reputation and in your wallet, and based on your organization's activity, and then you just vote. We capture the signature. There's no contract, but we store it immutably so that you can verify that the vote was indeed signed with the person's private key. And it's a much simpler interface. So there's that. Or you can go full DAO with it, and you also have this off-chain poll functionality within the full DAO, but additionally you have the security of the chain, which is staking the tokens for the actual duration of the voting. Not to say that light is less secure, because it uses a security mechanism which has been tried and tested for a few years now, especially by Snapshot, which is taking the snapshot of the block at a specific number and then using that value for all of the addresses. But of course, you can do more operations with the on-chain DAO, including integrations with other contracts. You have arbitrary key value pairs that you can use, and it's a more complete solution.
Okay. I've heard through the grapevine that your team has a new app in the works called HomeBase Projects, which, as I understand it, is centered around building a trustless business ecosystem. How much can you tell us about HomeBase Projects at this stage, and what should we be looking forward to as it makes its way into the wild?
Sure. I mean, I can tell you everything.
Okay.
The project started like 3 or 4 months ago, where we kind of like the serious discussions about this with Corey and Tezos Commons started along that time, around that time. And of course, I've been researching this for much longer, including an internal product that I did with Dorg in 2021. So, HomeBase Project is basically we call it trustless business ecosystem. It is an alternative to your normal environment where you need to make legal contracts with between two parties in order to engage in economic adventure. So um, it allows any two parties to spin up a smart contract for whatever engagement they decide to go on, and then it has reputation based arbitration. So what that means is, if during the execution of that contract there is a problem, either the client doesn't pay or the contractor doesn't deliver, because the object of the contract is immutably stored at the very beginning when they go into that agreement, and it's there for anybody to audit, we can place the decision making for how to allocate the cash that is stored in escrow, which the client puts there. We can place the decision of that to an arbiter, which is incentivized to vote in a way that they feel is correct, or in a way that they feel other people would consider correct, because their rulings are also public. So if they like to be used as an arbiter in the future, they are incentivized to behave as a good actor. And yeah, there's a small fee for the arbiter that both the client and um, and the contractor need to stake. So that's kind of the overview of it.
Cool.
I can do you. I can sound it.
We will demo it. I know you've come prepared to do a demo. I've got a couple more questions before we get to that, though. Like, I understand there's some other interesting changes in the works for Q1 and Q2 of 2024, namely the decentralization of the Tezos Ecosystem Dow. Can you walk us through exactly what that means and why your team felt like it should be a priority?
Well, sure. The reason, let me start with why it's a priority. Right now, we just made our pitch for 2024 to get funded, and it seems that's going to go through. However, this is the last time where we are funded in this way from a centralized source, even if the source has decentralized funding itself. But we feel like a HomeBase, like a DAO project like HomeBase, should be a primary good of the entire community. So, like, funding for an official DAO project shouldn't be the job of just a single organization. So, one reason why I want to do this is also for getting our funding more decentralized, but also there is like the current system for funding projects is not ideal. Like, just having 5 organizations vote, and I understand people have been, like, people in the community have been noticing and even complaining about this. Having five people decide on what projects get the grant is not ideal in the decentralized space. So the thing that we are doing is we're making a level 1 DAO. We're turning the Tezos ecosystem into a level 1 DAO. What that means is using the native token, which is XTZ, to vote. So just imagine you have like 50 or 100 candidates for receiving the funds for funding, and then you vote using your Tezos balance. You pick, I think, 20, or we're going to decide how many, but it's an approval voting where you have multiple options and you can choose more than one. And then the top, however many, get the funding. So that's the way we're decentralizing it. We're allowing people to vote with Tez.
Okay. So under this system, voting rights are allocated according to how much Tez you hold.
Yeah, exactly. And you can
Okay.
say that it's like, it is fitting because some of the cash that goes into this treasury comes directly from protocol upgrades. Bakers are able to attach an invoice
Yeah.
to the upgrades, and then yeah, some of the cash would spill back into this treasury for common goods. And you could say that it's the right of the community, since they're also deciding what bakers to put on. If the bakers decided to put some of that cash into this common treasury, then you could say it's their right to decide what to do with that.
Okay. So under that system, isn't there an inherent danger that a few whales could end up with a huge degree of control of the Tezos ecosystem DAO?
Yeah,
How do you safeguard against that?
that's a good catch. So yeah, that's a problem, and we've been kind of brainstorming about this for a while, because the last thing you want to do after you launch a treasury with funding for common goods is to just have somebody with no project but a lot of voting power just taking all the cash in the treasury. And it's going to happen. Like, it's game theory. Somebody's going to do it. Um, having so because if the chain is sufficiently decentralized, then you could say that it's not really such a big problem, because if a whale votes, it could alert the other token holders and they could rally and overthrow the voting power of that whale. But there's still the problem that it could just jump in at the very last minute, So initially we thought about, hey, let's do a system like a voting mechanism where you have like the normal voting period of 4 days or whatever you have it, and then you have an additional 2 day or 1 day 24-hour delay, which is arbitrary. It can be 0 seconds or it can be 24 hours. Nobody knows except the not even the initiator. So the initiator of the proposal submits a hash of the seeds for the random number generator, which is in the contract, and it decides. It basically, it sets the delay. After the entire 1 day period maximum delay is over, then the seed is revealed, and you can actually see how many votes made it into the actual poll. So that's something that we developed and as an anti-whale mechanism, and we're still testing it, and we'll likely we're going to go through with that. But the initial thing is much simpler. We cap the voting power. So if you're trying to vote with more than double the average of what the common Tezos token holder has, you're not going to be able to. You're just going to be capped at that. Whether it's going to be a fixed cap or whether we're going to have a formula that gradually decreases your voting power as you go up, that's also something we're working on.
Gets complicated, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's so cool, I think.
It is very cool. So I know you're eager to get to the demo, and we will in just a moment. But before we do that, as TezTalks Live's first ever 3-time guest, we've invited you into the driver's seat for the world famous TezTalks lightning round. Unlike our usual lightning round on today's show, you'll be asking me a series of rapid fire questions to answer. So, without further ado, it's lightning round time once again. I remind myself there are no wrong answers, and this is just for fun so our viewers can get to know me a little bit better. Am I ready? Yes, I am. Fire away.
Okay, Stu. So you know how this goes. You have to choose between two options presented in pairs at each question. Question number one: If aliens abducted you and took you back to their home planet, would you rather be put in their zoo or in their circus?
Zoo.
Okay. Choose between these options. So, pulling a lever to switch the incoming speeding train from the rail that would hit 5 people to the rail that would only hit 1, or not pulling the lever and just letting the 5 people be hit.
I would pull the lever.
Okay. Which of these two is holding back self-driving cars the most? Is it A, the technology? Is it B, the regulators?
I would say it's the regulators.
Okay. Human sexuality, is it a sacred mystery of creation or is it the soul's kryptonite?
The soul's kryptonite? I'm going to say it's a secret mystery
You
of
chose.
creation.
Okay, so yeah, but you have to pick the first one that comes to mind, because otherwise you know how it goes. So life extension, bring it on or kill me now.
Bring it on.
Would you rather catch a fishing hook in your eyelid or get skinned alive then dipped in vinegar?
Definitely, I'll take a fishing hook and eyelid.
Okay. Now this one, there's no options. You have to, but still have to work. Answer quickly.
Okay.
A worker can produce 10 units per hour, and his assistant can produce 6 units per hour. If they work together for 5 hours, how many units do they produce in total?
Oh, math. I think it's 80, 16 times
It is
5, right?
80.
Okay.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you. Those were excellent questions. This concludes the TezTalks lightning round. Now let's get to that HomeBase Projects demo.
Okay,
Do you
let me
know how
share
to
the
share
screen.
your screen with us?
I mean, I push the button where it says share screen.
Pretty simple, right?
That's as far as I thought.
Okay.
Okay. So it's gonna be on a different URL. Right now it's just a landing page, but I'm not seeing, like on the stream, I'm not seeing it change. I think I might have just shared one tab. Sorry. Let me try this again. So, okay, entire screens. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Come on. Okay.
There you go.
So I was saying
So
that right
this is
now
the
it's just
landing
a
page we're
landing
looking at, right?
page, and where
Okay.
people are going to be able to address instead of email address, which I think is more appropriate for a Web3 product. And then we'll use MailChain for that, like to follow up with the product launch. I think that's super nice. So right now, this is, you can see, it looks like HomeBase because it started out as just an extension of HomeBase, but as we developed it more, we decided that it's going to be just its own thing. So we're not going to do the extra tab where we have the users and the projects. This project is going to live. It's going to live on its own app. So, like I was saying before, this is an app that allows any two parties to enter in a trustless agreement. And the way if we just go through the motions, you add a new project as the party that needs some work done. You can also add it as the contractor if you're already, like, if you have a verbal understanding with the other party, and you can just invite them to the project. But the project cannot really exist without the party that is willing to pay for some work. So you go ahead and give it a name of the description and the project requirements. This is going to be a document that will be referenced in case of a dispute. So we will have a template for this, but it needs to very explicitly specify the job to be done. And of course, everybody can see this. So if, like, it's not clearly specified here, this can be addressed between the parties. But once you've done that, your project is going to be in open state,
Mm-hmm.
which means that it has its own contract that it's deployed. The author is the same as the contractor, and you can have a link to the requirements, so that can be every time accessed. So it shows it has, because it's a contract, it can hold funds, and the funds are in escrow.
Okay.
Now, the way to send funds is not just by normally making a transaction and using the contract address as the recipient. You have to call a function, because when you call this function, you are going to be put in a mapping. And in case there is a dispute that results, or in case, not even a dispute, in case the contractor wants to reimburse the backers, you are going to be sent your money back just by virtue of existing in this mapping that not only takes in your address, but also the contribution, whatever you send to the contract. And because this is heavily integrated with HomeBase, you can act as an individual. So it will take your own wallet address, or you can act as one of the DAOs that you're a member of. And then this will automatically create a proposal in your DAO, in your HomeBase DAO. So if you, for example, act as a DAO and want to send some cash to this project, then it will not use your wallet. It will use the treasury of the DAO that you're a member of. Of course, you cannot just unilaterally decide to do that. So it will create a proposal in your DAO. and then that's linked in a very nice way. So a new project, like an open project, has like a few exposed endpoints, the ability to send funds, to set the other party. So once you reach an agreement with a person to actually deliver on what you need, you submit them here, and then you wait for their signature. And of course, you can reimburse. I don't think you should be able to reimburse at this stage, right? Withdraw from. Oh yeah, you can withdraw while the other party isn't set. So even if it holds escrow, the other party isn't set, so it can the funds can be withdrawn. Now, the once the other party is set, it is going to be pending, and it is just going to be waiting for the other party, in this case the contractor, to sign that they are indeed going into this agreement. And then the project is ongoing. So while the project is ongoing, there's literally nothing to do in the contract. When the work has been done and the time comes to release the funds to the contractor, then the contract can provide some levers of action. First of all, you can always send more funds to the project regardless of the state, as long as it's not closed or expired. But both the contractor and the client, when the project is ongoing, they can initiate a dispute. So what this does is, I'll show you in a minute. And of course, while it's ongoing, the author, and you can see that each of these functions, it says the level of access here. This send funds to contractor can only be called by the author. So that means the work has been completed successfully, and you want to pay. If there is an issue with either the work or the payment, then you initiate a dispute. And a project that is in a dispute state can only allow the arbiter to decide how to split the cash which is in the treasury. So the arbiter would come in.
Who arbitrates?
So the arbiter is declared at the beginning of the agreement. You We want to look at it in a sense that there will be professional arbiters, so people who will just be doing this as a regular activity, and they're motivated by the fee that they get from arbitration. And this is the nice thing: both the contractor and the client have to agree on what arbiter to use before going through with the project. So if there is a divergence there, it won't come to this.
Okay.
So the arbiter is somebody who both the parties agree that is in a position to decide if there is a dispute.
Okay.
And ideally, this is also a DAO, and you have the voting for arbitration actions integrated into the DAO as well. So yeah, the arbiter is the only person in when the contract is in dispute to decide how to split. So this is the amount in the contract, and you can split it either completely in one way or the other, or based on what you find in what the contractor presents to you and what the actual document of requirements is, which was the immutable stored. As the arbiter, you decide. And then there's an expiration date for this, because you don't want to endlessly wait for the arbiter. And if it doesn't act within 2 months, I think, I don't know if you want to have this hard coded, then it goes back to the backers. So, and you could also infer that arbiter is not going to get too many arbitration.
Well, you'd assume if we're talking about a professional arbiter, as you suggested, that they would be able to arbitrate within 2 months, right? Or else they're probably not very good at their job.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So Yeah, and then it is closed. So the last, whether or not it ends on a dispute or not, is going to be closed. And if there is any cash that is being sent, that you still have this function that is, it's callable by anyone, because it's not going to send cash
Yeah.
except for the people who are in that mapping. So anybody can call it, uh, but the incentive is with the people who would get the cash to call it.
Okay.
So that's kind of the overview of how it works. I
Well,
hope this wasn't too
it's
complicated.
obviously a useful tool. Obviously, for tools like HomeBase and HomeBase Projects, your team will be contending with a similar problem to the one we've discussed before, one that is really an industry-wide problem that everybody building in the blockchain space needs to contend with, the problem of driving adoption. In your eyes, what would an effective communication campaign look like for a product like HomeBase Projects?
Well, honestly, Stu, I'm not sure if if we only ever get one thing to shout out from the rooftops, I don't know if it would be better to have like the trustless business ecosystem or the DAO thing. I feel like the DAO thing is more of a fundamental blockchain component, and I would go with that. Um, so, if, do you want to like talk about it as it pertains to the DAO platform?
Well, as somebody who is building projects like this and is a member of a team who's sort of like focused on this space, like what steps have the dOrg team taken toward finding ways to get the messaging around blockchain as a whole and Tezos and these types of projects to penetrate?
Not many steps, and not expensive, I would say. So it's quite modest what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say this is also a thing for most Web3 projects that aren't like Coke fueled crypto scams,
A hundred percent, a
rug
hundred
pulls.
percent agree. It's, as I said before, it's industry wide, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I cannot help but notice, not necessarily because it's theoretically part of my responsibilities, but it occurs to me that despite being being the world and consuming content and looking at what various people are saying, that we have significant overlap between the ideals of various cultural and political trends and what we stand for, in terms of what the technology can provide in terms of advantages. So if you look a little bit beyond the current um, confrontational context, um, you look at just the various political groups in the abstract, and there are certain values that you can map and see how much they overlap with what we're doing. So not looking at what people are against, which is unfortunately polarized, and it's quite fictitious, I have to say, but looking at what they're for. And just as a thought exercise, if I mention to you some values, you might want to place them on the political spectrum. Would you want to say if that's more right leaning or left leaning? Um,
I can try
so
if you want.
okay, so for example, minimal government intervention.
I mean, today I would say that is a right leaning
Yeah, and
position.
not only today. I mean, I think traditionally that's a conservative value. Individual responsibility and self-reliance. Kind of
Again,
put yourself by your
probably
bootstraps.
toward right.
Yeah, I agree. Then we have equal opportunities for all,
That would be left.
without even bringing in the. If you go into and analyze what these mean, like individual responsibility and equal opportunities, overlap because you have the idea of meritocracy, like this notion that people on the right are for, which is to pick yourself by your own bootstraps, and just this presumes that the system is inherently correct and that every homeless person that you see is because of their own fault in that position, which, if that would be a situation that is happening, it would be quite good. I mean, I would agree that there's no need for helping anybody. I mean, not no moral need, like, or at least, or not needing to codify that. But yeah, so these converge at a certain point, and
Mhm.
except for the very radicalized people on the left, this equal opportunity thing, or let's actually go to the next one, the free market economy. Is this right leaning or left?
That would be right.
Okay, yeah. However, except for the very extreme people on the left, there is now big group in liberal democracies which are advocating for, like, going to a fully state controlled economy, where you have, like, in the Soviet Union, you have the state enforcing quotas on every little organization.
Hmm.
So that's not what, but unfortunately, because of an alternative, this is kind of what the whole, not the, what they have to push forward in terms of actual policy. Some people leaning on the left. If you ask uh most of the people, though, nobody's for that. Like, if you ask just a normal person who is voting left, they don't want that. So, but they do want a system that provides equal opportunity. And then you have some like more general ones, like national security, and which is desired by both trends, and global cooperation is more on the left. So these are kind of the biggest values of the political discussion. And just like I said, without bringing blockchain into this, they overlap quite a lot if you take out the things that they are against. Um, and the problem is, for us, like, the conveying the two issues we have. One is the fact that the scams and the projects that were just didn't have any actual value in this space, they gave a bad reputation to everybody. So many of the people who are consuming content, political content, on the left especially, but also on the right, they have this mindset, and it's quite difficult to quantify it. Like, since Twitter shut down their API, it's been rough for to do a scientific competitive analysis of social trends. But this is kind of my general sense from a while ago. um, so we have that issue, that it's bad reputation for the people that spoiled it for everybody. And the other one is, there isn't a consolidated strategy that anybody articulates. Like, we say that blockchain is able to reiterate democracy and provide this environment of equal opportunity and fairness and all of that. There isn't, like, um, consistent plan that somebody is pushing forward as an actual political solution at the level of the territorial administrations. We're still, like, in pretending like we're in a sandbox, or and not really making moves towards pushing the decentralized governance to nation states. So I think,
I would take that even a step further and say, not only do we not have a cohesive message, but those who want to discredit blockchain tech and those who want to discredit the things that are being done in this space do have a coherent message that is resonating with people, and they're amplifying anytime that there's a bad actor in the space, anytime something goes wrong, that stuff gets amplified really loud and a lot of people hear it. So it's a, as long as that trend continues, it is a losing battle, right?
I think, Stu, we haven't even seen the pushback from actual powerful people against crypto because it didn't become a threat yet. So yeah, there are some people who are just discrediting the whole field, but it's not from a place of being threatened that it will take over and, you know, put them in a more vulnerable position, although that's rarely the case. But people resist change, but there isn't this pushback from people resisting change because the change is not even so tangible to push against.
Yeah. And at the same time, we've got practical tool. Like, if I look at the demo that you just did, it's like it's a platform that solves a real world problem that's becoming a bigger thing, where you've got person in country A providing work, person in country B contracting them to do it. You've got these disputes that need to be resolved when one of the parties isn't happy. Like, that's a problem that does need to be solved, and then you're presenting a solution to it that's based in blockchain tech and in Tezos, right?
It's multi-chain.
Those Okay, it's multi-chain, so based in the blockchain space, but a practical solution to a real world problem that is implementable in Q1 or Q2 of next year,
By the end of
right?
Q2.
Yeah. So there you go. And these things are coming, and we're seeing them more and more often.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. For my taste, I would prefer it that we, as a whole community, the Web3 people, have um, an agenda at the Territorial Administration level. I would prefer to be already there. And of course, we have products, we have things happening, we even have cash, lots of cash moving around the space. I think ultimately it will happen, but I would prefer it to happen faster rather than later, just because of the imperfections of the current system. And I mentioned the last two items, the values that we didn't go into, like national security and global cooperation. National security, I mean, the geopolitics and the fact that we can have we can still have the nuclear annihilation if a person decides to do that. That's wild to me. Like, that doesn't fit with all of the advancements that we've made as a civilization, especially in the tech space. The fact that that is still an option seems like it shouldn't be, right?
You'd like to think so. You'd
I
like to
I
think that
do.
it wouldn't be,
This is how I see it. Like, it doesn't
but it
fit with
is
all of the stuff
currently.
that we're doing.
Yeah, it seems insane. 100% agree.
Okay.
And I feel like that is a rabbit hole we could go very deep down. We don't really have time to go down that rabbit hole today.
No, but
Um,
sorry, just one sentence about that. Like,
okay.
placing the control of whether or not to start a war from the hands of an authoritarian person who is likely to not have their interests aligned with the population who leading, that's less likely to lead to conflicts, because people don't really want to go to wars. The leaders want to go to wars. That's
And
what I want to say.
that goes back all through history, right? Like, that's been the case since the beginning of time. Nobody really wants to go pick up a weapon and kill people and put their life on the line. Well, maybe some people do, but by and large, people would rather not do that, right?
Some people always do, which is fine. That's like the animal that we are. And even some parts, like, you're not 100% sure of choice at all times. But the thing is, wisdom is more likely to prevail if it's a collective judgment.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's more likely than cherry picking any individual person and putting them in a leading position. But statistically, it's more likely that a group of people will make the right decision or the peaceful decision, as opposed to a person who has their own subjective fears. So yeah.
Of course. Of course. And again, that is a deep rabbit hole. We could go down it. We do not have time to go down it today. What is next for Andrei Taranu and dOrg? Are there any other exciting projects or rollouts in the works?
Well, this I'm coding away at this trustless business ecosystem thing. While I'm also we're adding some new stuff to HomeBase separately. Like I said, besides the decentralizing the Tezos ecosystem, we're integrating of course, the thing that you have to have in this day and age, which is the chatbot to assist you at all times when you're on the app and tell you what each button means. So that's coming quickly.
Cool.
And yeah, for me, it's going to be the next 2 months are going to be all about finishing this trustless business ecosystem.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always awesome to speak to the folks helping enable on-chain governance here in the Tezos ecosystem and keeping Tezos at the forefront of the Web3 revolution. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before we sign off here?
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Anytime. Let us know when you want to come on for your fourth appearance. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our social media contacts can be found at tezoscommons.org/TezTalks. We'd love to hear from you. To everyone out there in Tezos land, thanks for joining us on the TezTalks live stream. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons, and our awesome guest has been Andrei Taranu, Decentralist Product Manager at dOrg. Now let's go explore HomeBase Projects.